It's no secret that adult friendships seem to get harder every single day. And with all this talk of toxic friendships and protecting your peace, it's time to actually answer the question, how do I know if this friendship is over and done or not? In this episode, I'm going to be talking about 5 questions that you can use to serve as a guide to figure out if this friendship is over or not. Let's go. Welcome back to Accidentally Intentional, where we are on a mission to break through surface level connection to build rich, meaningful friendships. And, I am getting a little bit bothered by how much talk and Instagram and social media posts I'm seeing lately of people talking about how you need to get rid of toxic people in your life, like protect your peace. Now, hang on, I don't have a problem with that part. Let me explain. But it's just all this if they do this, cut them out. You don't need it. You don't need that energy anymore. And I actually believe something a little bit different. Absolutely, you should protect your peace. But I believe that we are one conversation away from rebuilding a friendship. So many of us may be going into this thought process thinking this friendship is dead. But I disagree. I might not know the full context, but what if the friendship isn't dead, it's just different? What if what we thought something once was, just because it doesn't look like that anymore doesn't mean it's over. It just might be different. And so I'm going to be giving you 5 questions to think through that ultimately I would suggest happens in a conversational format with the person that you are friends with. Now, this may very well feel uncomfortable to a lot of you because these questions are going to be very vulnerable and get you immense clarity when you ask them. But here's how I think about it. If we are trying to build rich, meaningful friendships in our life, then we have to be willing to take the risk and jump off the deep end to truly get to know not only ourselves and what we're thinking, but what somebody else is thinking with regards to the friendship as well. I know that often in marriages, they have these things where you take inventory, like every year you do this marital retreat, but why are we not doing this with every type of relationship that means something to us in our lives? So here's 5 questions that I was thinking through. And let me just say up front, I'm sure this is going to be a continuous conversation on this channel, but these are the first 5 that I thought of that I have used in my life, and I want to impart them onto you, okay? The first question to ask yourself when you're thinking about the state of a current friendship that might be falling off is 1, do I want to be better when I'm with this person? Do they kind of pull me up and see my potential? Or are they the type of person who every time around them, I have the desire to gossip or talk crap about somebody else? And do I leave that conversation feeling drained or not? Now that's contextual because sometimes we can feel drained because somebody just shared something super vulnerable or they're going through something and they are not matching the capacity in which you are becoming the friend in their life because they're through a season where they just do not have the energy because they are getting pulled every other direction. That's completely different. But let's stay focused on the main question. Do I want to be a better person when I'm with this person? Do they make me want to grow? Because Simon Sinek has this great quote where he says, friendship is 2 people that choose to grow together. So this question really is a big part of that. Now, this is a question you should ask yourself, but some of these I'm going to obviously make note of whether you should ask this question to the other person in the friendship or not, to take that friendship inventory and have that state of the union conversation. Second question to ask yourself is, do I feel comfortable being honest with this person? Now, that's a hard one because sometimes we have been burned by people so much so in our lives that we project that every single person we run into will not be trustworthy and we don't think we can be honest with somebody. But the only way you can find out if you can be honest with somebody is by taking the risk and being honest with them first and seeing what they do with it. So that's an important question to ask yourself. And it's important to ask yourself because that is a question where you really have to be self-reflective. And instead of ultimately going to, nope, I definitely can't trust them, is the answer to that question saying more about them or you? That's what you have to think through. Question 3 is a question that you want to ask yourself. And ultimately, I think it's super important to bring to the table to ask the other person their thoughts on. And it is a variant of this. Am I willing to do what it takes to make this friendship work? And I say that because so often I think nowadays we're looking for the easy way out, the lazy way out, and someone does something unintentionally to us one time and our immediate reflex is they're dead to me, I can't trust you, you're done, instead of actually working through it and trying to get to the heart of the issue. I think that, well, let me say it like this. If we're the type of person that wants a rich, meaningful friendship in our life, then we are also prepared to be that type of person who's willing to do whatever it takes to become the friend that ultimately we want to find. So we really have to chew on that question and ask ourselves that and ask the other person as well. And this should not be done in an ultimatum sense. It's just truly getting a pulse on what are they thinking? Do they have capacity for this friendship? I mean, I'm going to do another episode on what to do when it feels like your friendship is drifting apart. But this is really one of the questions that comes into play to figuring that out. Question 4, to ask yourself in figuring out if a friendship is done or if it's different. Am I always expecting something in return from the other person? Now, I have a lot I'm going to say on this. There is an element of reciprocity that is needed and expected in every type of relationship in our life. And it's not always going to be tit for tat. And if we are expecting that, then we're the problem. Point blank. Because relationships ebb and flow. Somebody could go through a really difficult season where they actually feel like they can barely breathe and get their head above water. So expecting them to show up for you the same way, at the same time you're showing up for them in a deep way, is not fair because they just might not have capacity. And on the flip side, you're going to go through something too. And then that friendship, God willing, is going to be the person that helps walk with you through it. That's the type of friendships we're looking for, is people who walk with us through the hard times and the good times alike and aren't expecting full reciprocity at all times, but are willing to have grace for one another. Can I be honest for a second? I want to get to know you because this entire channel is devoted to teaching adults how to build rich, meaningful friendships, and I'm part of that category too. One of the worst parts about podcasting is that all you see is numbers, not names. But you're not a number, you are a name, and you're part of this community, and I want to get to know you. So would you do me the honor of clicking the link below in the description and filling out some basic info about yourself, name, email address, and answer a couple questions so that I can get to know the person behind the screen or behind the earbuds a little bit better? I'm going to be personally emailing every single person back because I want to foster this connection. And along with that, I'm also going to be emailing you my guide to my 15 favorite questions to ask to start a more meaningful conversation. So click that link below. I truly want to get to know you. Thank you so much for being part of this community. You are worth building incredibly rich friendships. Back to the show. Arthur Brooks has done some research on this concept of real friends versus deal friends. And put simply, most of us think of our friendships as deal friendships, as in we're expecting something from them. But real friends are actually considered, and this is a quote from him, useless friends. The greatest friends are the ones that are useless in the sense of we don't expect anything from them in the way that you would with somebody who is a deal friend. Like a deal friend is someone who has connections. They can introduce you to other people. A deal friend is someone who you can hang out with when you always want to do a certain activity. Now, that can get deeper and get past that, but Deal friendships are based off of something where you know that there's mutual benefit for the other. Real friends, there might not be. But I'd like to rephrase it that the benefit just looks different. The benefit of a real friendship might look like somebody who is just present for you, somebody who is generous with their time, someone who has availability for you. And useless friends can sometimes look like not needing to always have the deep conversation. And if you listen to this channel, you're probably like, girl, you always want to have a deep conversation. That's true. But at the same time, you want to have fun too. You want to be lighthearted. You want to be yourself and feel like the person you are with makes you feel, emotionally safe. And I have no problem saying it. Like, we all want that. We all want to be fully seen, fully known, and fully loved. That is just human nature and human design. We all want to feel that. And so that's what a real friend looks like, as opposed to a deal friend. So again, that question is, am I always expecting something in return from the other person? Because that's something we're going to need to self-examine before moving forward. And the fifth question to ask yourself and ask the other person has to do with expectations. I talked about at the beginning how a friendship might not be dead, it might just be different. And the main difference is the expectations change. So in one season, a friend who you met in college, for instance, where you both were, living the same lifestyle, you both had the same availability. Now the other person might be married with kids in a different state. It's going to look different. The expectations are going to change as their availability, for instance, and the capacity which they have overall. And so that's a really important conversation to have with someone where you're feeling like this might be the end. It does not have to necessarily be the end. And this is the critical piece of it, is establishing what expectations can we have for each other in this different season of friendship. I think this is literally the most critical part. This is where people, instead of asking this question, we just say, bye, this is over, this is done, this isn't working for me anymore. It's so me focused instead of like, what can we do together, to change and grow together in this new phase and season of the friendship, which it inevitably will be if you choose to continue with it. And along with that, throughout all of this, asking ourselves, would I be willing to do all of the expectations I expect someone else to do if the role was reversed and if it was me? And I think it's really easy for us to say yes and to lie to ourselves because at the moment we're asking it, we're not put in that position. So this one really, I'm saying, is going to take a lot of deep reflection when it comes to, are the expectations I have of someone else actually fair? And would I be willing to take on all those expectations if the roles were reversed? I think this whole conversation is truly, really important. And it can save a lot of friendships if we're willing to, again, go into the deep end with people and be willing to have these difficult conversations and put these difficult questions on the table. Now, absolutely, it's so much easier to just be like, nope, done. Doesn't work for me. But then why are we expecting the relationships and the friendships in our life to look any different if we aren't willing to first embody and become that friend that we're looking for? So I realized that in this episode, I did not directly answer the question, is the friendship dead or is it different? Because the context is important. I don't know everything that's going on in your life, but I do know some questions that can guide you to help facilitate that thought process for you to come to that conclusion on your own. And if I may say so myself, I believe that you are worth building those incredibly rich friendships, and you are worth having that one conversation that could change everything for the better. And you won't know until you take the risk and go there with that friend. I believe in you. Let's go.